Painful Lessons Podcast. I'm Tyler Ramsey, and we own mistakes. Painful Lessons. We own mistakes. It's my favorite thing to say right now. We own mistakes, and this is all about the art of growth. A huge part of my growth, and one of my main curiosities is the subject of recovery and sobriety. But not just sobriety. I think the attitude is I have a passion for leveling up and trying to reduce things in my life that are not serving me, that are not helping me. And for me, and this is such an understatement, but one thing has been alcohol. And I like drugs too and all kinds of stuff. But alcohol is everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. And I think a lot of people have a terrific relationship to alcohol, but some people don't. And I have been following this guy online for a while, and he's like a spectacular communicator. He's got this amazing accent, and his name's James Swanick. And he is with us today. James, I'm so excited you made it to my humble studio.
Thank you very much for having me, Tyler. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I've been like watching you for a while, and I have to say I've been sort of inspired by you have been doing a terrific job communicating about some things that I think a lot of us feel where we get to a point where maybe we've had a terrific time with alcohol and we have a great time until we stop having a great time with it.
Yes.
Until the relationship starts to sour. For
Yes.
some of it's like a really terrible girlfriend. Where it's like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we had fun for a little bit, and then she turned crazy. And so, listen, tell me a little bit about where you're coming from. It's like, why you're championing this subject?
Yeah. Well, I'm Australian, and I grew up as a socially acceptable drinker in that I would have 2 or 3 drinks most nights of the week, and I would drink heavier on weekends. To be clear, I wasn't what society might deem an alcoholic. I didn't get a DUI. I didn't wake up in a gutter. I wasn't doing anything too crazy, but I was drinking consistently for almost 20 years, from the age I was 16 right up until when I stopped at age 35. And that took a toll. I put on about 30, 35 pounds of unwanted body weight. I wasn't sleeping great. And most interestingly, I was irritable and I was envious of other people. And I just felt blah. So it wasn't rock bottom, but it was just this mediocrity, this drift of life. And I remember I was in Austin, Texas, 2010. I had 2 Bombay Sapphire gin and tonics at a party the night before. I woke up the next morning, looked in the mirror, and I just looked blah. I just looked average.
Yeah.
And I went next door to this hotel, to this IHOP, an International House of Pancakes, to go and have a hangover breakfast. And I'm sitting in this IHOP, and it suddenly dawned on me, what am I doing in an IHOP? Like, this is really mediocre.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I made a decision to try quitting alcohol for at least 30 days, just to see what would happen.
Sure.
And I lost 13 pounds in 30 days. I slept better. I had clarity, focus, energy. I attracted this amazing romantic relationship into my life.
Wow.
I auditioned to become a sports center anchor on ESPN. And to my utter bewilderment, they gave me the job. And I was like, wow, this is outstanding, this clarity and focus from not drinking. And then I just kept pushing it a little bit longer. Let's see if I can do 60 days, 90 days. And that was 2010. I haven't drunk in 15 years.
This is, you know what's so cool about this? You got to this place without having to hit a rock bottom. And it seems, and this is what I think I really was responding to in the content of yours I've seen, is that none of us wants to feel like we just are squashing our potential to something that's, let's say, average or mediocre. It's like, and in some ways, it's you in this IHOP. You know, you probably had some junk ass breakfast,
or you can eat pancakes.
Yeah. Listen, by the way, pancakes are great, but IHOP also is like, I went to an IHOP recently with my kids. It was garbage.
Yeah.
And I love pancakes, and it was garbage. And, but I can just see all of a sudden it's like a lot of people will wake up and they'll have cold McDonald's around them or something. It's like, they're just like, what is this bullshit that I've turned my life into?
Yeah. And you get that you get to that point from the drift because we're all unconscious. For years, we're drinking seemingly innocent amounts of alcohol.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like, maybe I should cut back. Maybe I should stop entirely. But who would I be without that attractively packaged poison? Am I still going to be fun? I've got this fear I'm going to be dull or boring. And so we procrastinate on that choice and we convince ourselves that it's no big deal. But really, alcohol is like death by 1,000 cuts. It may not be obvious in the moment. It could be as well. You might get a DUI, you might do something stupid, but maybe it's not that obvious or that profound. But over years and over decades, suddenly you reach that point where you go, this is not serving me. It hasn't been serving me. This is like a toxic relationship that is backstabbing me, that's trying to keep me in this relationship even though it's not working for me. It's causing challenges, irritability, envy. And if you're middle-aged, marital strain, your kids aren't as present with you anymore, you're not as present with them, and that drift, that death by 1,000 cuts suddenly gets you to this point where you go, wow, now I've really got to make a change.
You know, it's funny, no one that is probably a candidate for this is remotely, I feel most people are not confused. Everyone knows the answer. If this applies to them, you know the answer. And if it doesn't, have a ball. Because I think that there's so many wonderful things about alcohol. Like, I wish, actually, I don't wish anything. I'm really happy with the way life is. But there are wonderful things when you're young and you're kind of exploring this spirit of adventure in life. And there's sometimes, you know, all of a sudden this song comes on and you and your buddies are just singing the loud as you can. And maybe you're at a karaoke bar or something and you're singing a song that maybe you wouldn't really jump up and grab the mic in those circumstances. And you have the time of your life and you maybe even meet a girl. It's like, I wouldn't want to take those experiences away from anyone, but the people that have grown into this toxic relationship, they know it.
Yes.
They know it. So sometimes I almost edit myself in my head and I think, God, I don't want to come across as preachy. And the more I think about it, I go, if you're having a ball with it, have a ball with it. Have a ball with it. But if you're not, there are ways to address it. And I think, by the way, I'm in a program, and I'm not a representative of AA or anything, but I don't think it's a secret that that's a program. I'm in a program, and the thing that worked for me more than anything else was developing a really intense relationship with God. Some people say higher power. I'm very clear on who my God is and Jesus and all that. You have a way that I think is unique. And I've only barely scratched the surface, or barely. We've intentionally not discussed it.
Yes.
So tell me about it.
Yeah. So our stop drinking process, I would submit, is the exact opposite of AA. And I celebrate AA's mission. And if AA is working for you and traditional ways of stopping drinking work for you, like rehab or willpower or AA, if they work for you, keep doing that.
Yeah.
But I submit they're the most ineffective ways for most people. Okay. Now, I've done a lot of research on AA itself, and there are a lot of reported studies which seem to suggest that the actual success rate is less than 10%.
Okay.
And we're judging success by if someone gets to at least a year of what they refer to as sobriety.
Yeah.
Okay. Which means that it has a 90% failure rate for most people if we're judging the success by a year of being alcohol free.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it's helped millions of people, tens of millions of people since 1935. It's been around 90 years.
Yeah.
And I say, if AA has worked for you, yes, I'm so happy. If AA is working for you, keep doing it. I'm not going to try to persuade you to do something different because it's working. However, the statistics and the research seems to suggest that it doesn't work for most people. The way that our 90-day or the way that our stop drinking process works is instead of surrendering to a higher power, instead of saying I'm powerless over this disease, instead of using verbiage like I'm sober, I'm practicing sobriety, I'm in recovery,
right,
We say, I'm choosing an alcohol-free lifestyle. I'm choosing great sleep. I'm choosing conscious communication. I'm choosing personal development. We're no longer saying what we're not going to do, which is, I need to stop drinking. I've got to be sober. I need to stop. And now we're choosing what we're going to do. And there's a lot of neuroscience that has shown that when we tell ourselves what not to do, we tend to end up doing that thing because a bundle of nerves in our brain, which is called the reticular activating system, otherwise known as the RAS, only focuses on what you're telling it not to do.
Okay.
For example, just say you're skiing down a mountain and you're saying to yourself, don't steer towards the trees, don't fall over. Many times we tend to steer towards the trees and we fall over.
Yeah.
And why does that happen? Because we just told ourselves not to do that. The reason is that the RAS doesn't understand the negative command.
Sure.
It only hears trees fall over. So in our stop drinking process, we're empowering people. We're saying, stop saying that you're powerless over a disease and say that you are powerful and that you're going to choose an alcohol-free lifestyle. You're going to walk confidently up to the bar and you're going to say, I'd love a soda, water, ice, and a piece of lime, thanks. Or you walk into a party and you say, I'm going to have the best time at this party tonight drinking mocktails. Or I can't wait to wake up tomorrow morning feeling hydrated and refreshed because I had an amazing night drinking soda, water, ice, and a splash of cranberry.
Yeah.
So this is very empowering, I would submit, and is telling us what we will do. And because we're doing it that way, it becomes very simple. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it's very simple.
It's interesting that it is kind of a new thing too. It's where there's an excitement about treating yourself in a way that makes you feel happy, or it makes you feel healthy all the time, so that you can crush more, you can earn more. And I see so many different influencers that even these like brash, over the top kind of like get rich influencers are even championing like, why would you dull yourself? Why would you dull yourself? So I love that you are going at this from like, don't even just have it in your head all the time. This is about not drinking, but it's about going after a better life.
Yes.
That's what you, okay. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's avoiding, don't do this, I shouldn't do that.
Sure.
It's shame, it's lamenting the past, it's surrendering, I'm powerless. It's moving all of that over there and instead going, I get to be alcohol free.
Yeah.
It's not that I need to be sober. It's I get to choose willingly and openly and lovingly to be alcohol free. And over here is so much more positive, I would submit, than over here, which can be negative. I'm not saying it always is. I know that there are people who have done AA and they're sober, and you're one of those, and your energy is incredible.
Yeah.
But over here, I would submit is that we're trying to avoid something, whereas over here, we're moving towards something. And this way, to me, feels so much more empowering.
Listen, I think I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. And we should probably actually, instead of even calling it AA, it's almost like calling it let's just say like a 12-step program.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, in any 12-step program, there can be, I think also with any group, you can get together with a group or something. And sometimes a lot of the talk can be centered around, I just can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I think that any of those groups also would benefit if someone came and go, hey, what if just in the way we communicate with each other, we talk more like this and everything. I'll tell you what, I have also evolved and grown to a place after being humbled for so many times. I think that there's an attitude of surrender that I had to embrace. And that's the only thing that has worked for me. And so tell me how you feel about the concept of surrendering, because it seems like I think you would want to tell people you're not surrendering to anything. You're raising your fist up and you're saying, no, I'm going to go this direction. And so I think it seems like we're very aligned.
Yeah.
But the attitude and is more of a go get it.
Yeah.
And that's
but to be clear, the way I'm saying go get it isn't harder. It's easier. It's not push through brute force and willpower.
Yeah.
This way I submit is actually the surrendering.
Sure.
Right? It's surrendering, having to push and like really do this with brute willpower.
Yeah.
This is so much more simple. It's easier. I would submit that doing it this other way, is you've got one foot on the accelerator while simultaneously having the other foot on the brake. Okay. So I'm not saying push down on the accelerator even more. I'm saying ease up on the brake or just take your foot off.
Interesting.
And when you do that, now you can sleep well. Now you're not as irritable. Now you're not as stressed. Now you can use the word surrender, if you like, as I surrender to this beautiful way of life. Yeah. I'm now surrendering to all the opportunities that come into my life.
Yeah.
And when you're open to that, the universe really delivers those kind of outcomes, those positive outcomes. It's interesting what you said before when you were referencing an AA meeting. And you said that people come in and sometimes they say, I just can't do this anymore. I can't go on. I think that was what you said.
Yeah.
I would say in that moment, well, let's do what I call a flipperoonie with the verbiage and just say, how can I go on? Yeah. Instead of, I can't go on, I can't go on. It's like, how can I go on and have it feel really easy and fun? Just changing the words just a little bit gives us a completely different perspective about the situation. It's like, this is so hard. Okay, well, let's do the flipperoonie. How can I have this feel really simple and easy?
Right.
And so now we're in creation mode. Now we're in opportunity mode, as opposed to over here where we only see obstacles and challenges.
Sure. You know, I have a phrase that someone who I think is an absolute champion of sobriety, but also creatively a hero of mine. His name's Josh Brolin, and he passed on this phrase, punk rock sober. And it ended up being the giant shift or perception that I needed at a time when I was, well, let's just say it came to me at the perfect time. And it very much encompasses, I think, a lot of what you're talking about, which is I'm not giving up anything. I'm going after a friggin' edgy, cool lifestyle that's way better and more vibrant. And so in many ways, it's so funny. In many ways, I completely agree with what you're saying.
We're all trying to get to the same outcome.
Yeah.
Which is having a fantastic life, having fun with connection, great relationships, health, clarity, and focus. Whatever the modality that we use, we all want that outcome.
Sure.
I just feel like there are more effective ways than the traditional ways that have been around 90 years, like AA. And so I feel like today, if we can focus on great nutrition, and we can focus on the verbiage that we use in life, instead of saying, I can't, we change it to, how can I?
Yeah, great.
That kind of flip in verbiage, that kind of change in mindset would give us the outcome we want and have it feel really simple and easy and open. That's what I'm saying. Josh Brolin, the actor, right?
Yeah.
From the Goonies and back in the day. Is that Josh Brolin?
Avengers. Dude, kills it.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, I see a lot of these Hollywood celebrities saying that they're sober and they're celebrating. I see Rob Lowe. So many of them. And I celebrate them and I'm so happy for them.
Yeah. One great thing about social media right now is that I have been exposed, we're all exposed to a lot of, not that celebrities should be heroes, but I don't know, creatively, I'm really inspired by some of them. And it's awesome to see someone I'm inspired by and maybe really admire their work creatively, unveil or explain, go, a big part of my success has been staying sober, or a
Yes.
big part of my success has been not drinking or something, making better choices. And it gives me fuel.
Yes. Yeah. I love it when I see celebrities coming out and saying that they're celebrating their sobriety. The only amendment I would want to propose to them is to refrain from using the term sober and sobriety.
Yeah.
Because my view is that there is a negative connotation regarding that to most people
Okay.
who haven't gone alcohol free yet, who haven't
Okay.
gone to an AA meeting, and maybe they're pondering that. So I would love them to just change the language to I'm alcohol free, or I'm loving being so healthy and drinking alcohol free alternatives, as opposed to I'm sober, I'm practicing sobriety. Now, thankfully, that connotation is shifting somewhat because now Generation Z, for example, are turning their back on alcohol. Alcohol sales have plummeted.
Yeah.
So as a society, there really is a cultural shift that's going on now. People are drinking less than they ever have. And the liquor companies are scrambling. They're trying to create these 0% wines and beers. Interestingly, just a side note, Heineken Zero, which is 0% beer, was 11% of all Heineken sales in 2023. That is astounding. Like, that really does represent a huge cultural shift. And so, yeah, I feel like, I know it sounds like I'm picking on AA a little bit here, but my view is that AA has been around 90 years.
Yeah.
And it's old and it's antiquated. And I just think there are more effective ways of getting to the same outcome.
Sure. Yeah, I won't let you pick on AA too much. And by the way, AA can defend itself, so I'm not really worried about that. And I think you have a point though, that there are all sorts of ways that people can get into an alcohol-free lifestyle. And it's funny, when I think of someone saying alcohol-free, generally I think, do they mean because I'm microdosing mushrooms all the time, or do they mean? And I don't have a problem. Also, if you can do that, great. If you can't, there's a way to get help. But in California, for sure, there's a term, California sober, which means that you're alcohol-free and maybe free of cocaine, but you can take mushrooms and you can smoke weed. And so I think it's interesting. You don't like the word sober, or you don't like it when someone who's just enjoying an alcohol-free lifestyle says that because of the negative connotations. Perhaps there is a need right now to find maybe a better term.
Yeah.
I mean, so many things are being renamed. Maybe there's time to say a more updated term.
Yeah, I think so, because we arise in language. Like, everything that we think and feel and perceive is through the words that we use.
Alcohol-free is not good enough. We need a better one.
And it also has the word alcohol in it. So it's not great, right? Because as we were talking about before with the reticular activating system, now it's thinking about alcohol. It's implanting that word.
Great point.
So, yeah, maybe we can come up with a better term, which will help millions of people to get to the same outcome, which is, whether you're doing AA, you're sober, or whether you're doing something else, you're alcohol-free. That would be great. But it is a lifestyle choice. And I think this is the big thing, Tyler. I think most people think that if they're going to be sober or stop drinking, that they'll be depriving themselves of fun or pleasure or joy. And so they associate not drinking with pain, and they associate drinking with pleasure and joy. But I would submit it's the other way around.
Well, I feel that you haven't touched on one thing that I think is important for 12-step programs, which is that the reason that you take on the spiritual program is because you go through these 12 steps, and in doing so, you address certain things. We all have resentments, and some of us have resentments that are really holding us back in a significant way. And the only way to get through those is to kind of do the work, and realize that the only thing you can really do is keep your own side of the street clean.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is you have to realize that you are bringing a lot of the issues to the table. So it's like you have to get to the bottom of several things.
Yes.
Why are you mad about this thing? What were you bringing to it? And then ultimately I guarantee we don't disagree, but with the serenity prayer, which is that you have to accept if there are things in life that you can't change, you have to accept those.
Yes.
And then you have to, certainly, if there is something that you can change, you ball up, dude, and you need to change it.
Yes.
So if you aren't able to do those things, you can't. I don't think that you can live the type of life where you're able even to stand reality enough, where then you don't require something like alcohol or something to numb you.
Yes. It's self-awareness, and it's 100% responsibility for your actions and your thoughts and your feelings. And so someone who is, let's say, practicing a growth mindset, maybe they're doing therapy, they're into personal development, they're going to have an easier time letting go of the alcohol and choosing an alcohol-free lifestyle than someone who isn't. Because all alcohol really is, most of the time, is a way to numb ourselves from the pain of being ourselves. And if we're envious of other people, we're irritable, we're frustrated because we're waiting too long in a supermarket line, we're angry with our mother or father, or we're having an affair with our husband or a wife, all of those things is just the discomfort of being with ourselves. And then we use alcohol as a numbing agent. We use it to give us a temporary relief from the pain of being ourselves. And there's a chapter in my book, Clear, which is titled The Uncomfortable Reality of Your New Clarity. And a lot of folks, when they stop drinking alcohol, suddenly they realize, oh, this is not the marriage for me, or oh, I've chosen the wrong profession, or oh, there's something here that doesn't feel right. I've got to make a change. And that can be overwhelmingly challenging and difficult.
Sure.
And so I really acknowledge anyone who's willing to go down that route, because just because you stop drinking alcohol doesn't mean it's going to be always sunshine and rainbows, because that new clarity, you suddenly realize that you've been kicking the can down the road in your relationships, in your health, in your profession, in your career. And then you get to this point where it's like, I got to make a change.
And those people that get to that point, they have two choices. I have to now make the changes I need to make to be what has become painfully obvious as a healthier life, or I can give up this search for a better deal, and I can go back to numbing, and which ultimately they're just sitting in the same terrible spot, whatever that is. You know, it's, you're familiar with the term pink cloud?
Yes.
Most people, when they get through, usually I feel it takes about 2 weeks of getting through a stage. Anyone that's really used to drinking much, where it becomes difficult.
Yes.
After about 2 weeks, it becomes far less difficult, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh man, I lost a little weight. I'm more clear, or something. You go through this stage, which is a pink cloud, and that lasts different quantities of time for different people. But yeah, then all of a sudden you realize, oh man, I now have to feel these feelings, and so sometimes it's just too uncomfortable for people.
We had a member go through our stop drinking process, and she was on day 62 or 63 of the 90-day process. And she announced to everyone who was on this Zoom call meeting, I've realized my marriage is over.
Oh gosh.
And I'm sitting my husband down tonight, and I'm going to tell him. And we were like, wow. And she did. And she ended the marriage, and that was 3 years ago. And now she's back being single, and now she's pivoted in her career as well. And she started an argan oil business, which is doing very well, an e-commerce store. Okay. And she tells us periodically that she's infinitely more happy and that she's feeling great, and it was the best decision that she ever made. And it was painful, because she got to that day 62, 63, and that clarity.
So early to make that decision, though.
Yeah. But
I usually go, wait about 90 days at least.
Yeah. But she said that she'd been feeling that way for a decade. Like, she was 28 years into the marriage, And from 18 years on, for 10 years, she'd been thinking, I'm not sure this marriage is right for me.
Wow.
And so she kept drinking, kept procrastinating, kept numbing herself, kept kicking the can down the road until finally she stopped drinking. Probably didn't go into it thinking that she was going to end the marriage, may not have. Probably wanted to feel better and lose some weight or whatever. But then that uncomfortable reality of that clarity came to her, and that enabled her to then make a decision that she probably should have made 10 years earlier.
Yeah. I know of a retreat. I don't want to name it. It's sort of it's like Esalen, similar kind of retreat. They have, everyone who goes says, best thing I've ever done. I came out happier than I've ever been. And it's something, and it's a lasting, all of a sudden I love myself 30% more than I did when I went in, and it sticks still, years later. But anytime I've heard anything negative, they go, well, if you're having a tough time in your relationship, just be aware you could very easily go in and it can be painfully clear that you need to get out of that relationship. So some people that have a spouse or someone, they go, I don't want you going to that. But anyone who's in a great relationship doesn't, all of a sudden decide that they want to get out if they're, just because they're happier. But it does wake up some people, and they realize, oh my gosh, in this short period of time, realizing how happy I am, I've also realized how happy I was not. And they end up making these big changes, and big changes can scare people.
Yes.
Yeah.
People tend to wake up when they stop drinking alcohol.
Same. Yeah. Same thing.
Because now they've got this clarity. Now they've got this focus. Now they've got to be with their feelings instead of numbing their feelings with the alcohol.
Yeah.
Now they actually get to be with themselves and have a relationship with themselves without distraction. And that wake-up call can be painful. It can also be beautiful, but it can be painful.
Yeah.
So that's why I say I acknowledge anyone who's willing to take that leap of faith and stop drinking, get off drugs, whatever the vice is.
Sure.
Because
we haven't talked about drugs. Is your program, are drugs a part of that? The discussion of drugs?
No, it's almost always just alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah. And the folks who come through our program tend to be high achievers. Well, they would describe themselves as high achievers. So a CEO, an executive, a business owner,
sure.
A lot of physicians, which should be scary. The ER doctors there who are drinking a bottle of wine a night, who are operating in the emergency room, that should be frightening. Pilots, attorneys, realtors, investors, those kind of folks who would describe themselves as high achievers. They're the ones who find themselves to our stop drinking process. And usually it's a very similar story, which is they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They're married, they've got kids, and they're not present with their kids anymore. Whether the kids are young or they're adults, they have drifted away from them. There's marital strain, and it's not necessarily stand-up arguments, but it's that drift where all of a sudden they're no longer lovers and soulmates, but rather they're roommates.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for a number of years, and they realize that they're just drifting in their life. In other cases, folks who have businesses know that they're operating at about a 6 out of 10 because they're tired, they're lethargic. They think that they need to drink alcohol to entertain clients. They're drinking a bottle of wine or 6-pack of beer at the end of the day to relieve them of their stress and anxiety, which ironically creates more stress and anxiety. And they get stuck in this vicious cycle of drinking to relieve themselves of the very symptoms that drinking is creating in the first place.
Yeah.
And I don't think most of them would say that they're rock bottom, but they're feeling like that drift of life is getting them, and they're slowly dying a death by 1,000 cuts. And that discomfort wakes them up to, I've got to get alcohol out of my life to actually go on this hero's journey.
Yeah.
And the
hero's journey.
And the hero's journey isn't always pleasant. You've got obstacles. You've got worthy opponents. You've got challenges. But ultimately, the hero shines through and has a much better life. I always say pray for a worthy opponent. And in this case, the worthy opponent is alcohol.
Yeah.
Because to defeat it,
that's good.
You have to level up your life. You have to go through that hero's journey with pain and obstacles and challenges. It feels like you're running through rose bushes and you're getting all bloodied from the thorns. But then when you get out the other side of those rose bushes, you've leveled up. You've been able to overcome those obstacles. It's beautiful on the other side.
Yeah. What's the best part about Rocky? Where he's training and he's all just in the roughest circumstances, maybe in cold Russia, and then he gets smashed by Ivan Drago, and he wins in the end. It's like, that's who you want to cheer for. That's how you want. If you had to pick a life, that's the life that ultimately we all want. You don't want to be some boring person that just dumbs down everything, watches a friggin' mountain of TV as they just kind of nod off for the night every night after, and then all of a sudden life has just passed you by.
Yeah.
But here's the question. What do you tell, let's say, a 17-year-old kid that goes, man, I got a couple nights where my parents are going to be working late and I got a bunch of mates and we're thinking about maybe going to a soccer game, football game, and we happen to have a couple bottles of vodka and maybe even like a couple bumps or something. Would you tell that kid, don't do that? Or, because I know you're not about the don't do. Okay, what do you tell that kid?
Have a great time at the football game. Go out with your buddies. Be alcohol free, be drug free, and just have the best time that you can have. That's what I would say. Now, it doesn't matter how many times I can say that. Most teenagers, most people at that age are going to ignore that and go and do it anyway. I'm going on anecdotal evidence here over the years. And I remember when I was 17, 18, and in my 20s, I went crazy. Like, I was drinking and dancing on tables and getting effed up and doing all those kind of things. And the people who find their way to my Stop Drinking program, the youngest people are late 30s. You know, it's just something that someone in their teens and in their 20s, and I would even suggest early 30s, they still think they're invincible, right?
Sure.
And they still associate the drug use and the alcohol use with good times and fun. It's very challenging to change someone's mindset at that age.
At that age, it's hard.
It's hard.
And part of me, the advice I would say is go, oh yeah, tear it up tonight. Tear it up.
Yeah.
You'll either get to this place or you won't. But man, these memories of youth get crazy.
Yeah. You could do that. That's great parenting, Tyler. Yeah. Parenting 101.
I will not ways you could do that.
Yeah.
You know, actually, that's a really difficult. What will I tell my son? I go, man, there's a chance you might have this in the blood and it could go very badly for you.
I think that's a good way of doing it. I think
respect it.
I think it might be, look, you're going to do what you're going to do. You're your own person. You're an adult now. You can make your own choices. Here's what I did, and here were the negative consequences, and here were the positive consequences.
Sure.
I quit drinking. How old were you when you got sober?
Sure. So I have 4 years of kind of perfect sobriety. And
Congrats.
Yes, thank you. But I when I was 20, I think I was about 26, I started this journey where it was basically alcohol is not working for me. So I've had fits and periods of sometimes years and years and years of no drinking, but smoking a lot of weed and taking ecstasy and mushrooms and stuff and Adderall and Zen, all these other things. But I've never just been clear as a bell until 4 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations on that. It's amazing.
Thanks, yeah.
So that's a conversation you might have with the child, which is, here's how I've lived my life with drugs, including alcohol. And here were the negative consequences and here were the positive consequences of not drinking and not taking drugs. You're going to make your own choices, but I just wanted you to be aware of what happened in my life, and then, good luck, make your own choices. I might also add, my preference is that you choose an alcohol-free lifestyle and a drug-free lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I realize that I don't get to, have a say in that. You're your own person. So maybe, something like that might be better than do not drink. It's the worst thing. Having said that, President Trump has never drunk alcohol.
He hasn't.
No. And he's also on camera telling his son, Barron Trump, when he was a little kid, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. And to my knowledge, I don't think Barron Trump drinks any alcohol. I don't know. I'd have to dig in a little deeper. But that way of educating your child, like no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes, may have been effective for his children.
Right. It wasn't effective for me. I was very clearly told not to do certain things, and I thought, well, those are probably the sweetest of all. But I mean, some of us, I think, just have a more rebellious spirit and also a more acute love of what is dangerous.
Yeah. And do you think that you got that from nature or nurture?
Probably both.
Yeah. So it was
Probably
inherently in you, but then something happened in your childhood that made you go, okay, I'm going to be rebellious, or I'm going to live on the edge, or I'm going to live a life of danger.
I'm a son of kind of also a rebel and someone who enjoys danger and pranks and all that stuff. And also had a difficult relationship with alcohol. And then I also have a very, very diagnosable bug, whatever that is, that makes me where I really respond to chemicals. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
I bet your dopamine receptors light up like the 4th of July when you consume any alcohol or drug.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It hits me in a way that I'm only can kind of relate to how other alcohol, where it's all of a sudden the lights are on, everything.
Yeah.
This is what I've been waiting for. The moment.
Yeah.
The moment it's like, remember that movie Old School with Will Ferrell? He goes, the moment it touches your lips, it's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It touches you. Yeah, that's funny. That was hilarious.
I thought, well, as soon as I saw that scene, I go, oh, bingo.
Yeah. When we drink alcohol, our dopamine receptors light up like the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And then over time, let's call it weeks, months, years, even decades, those dopamine receptors get dulled. And so now we need to drink more to try to get the same effect that we had when we initially were drinking alcohol. And then when we finally stop, we feel this sense of loss because we're not getting that 4th of July hit again for dopamine. So then the challenge or the journey, I guess, is to then get dopamine release from more holistic activities, such as practicing a life of appreciation instead of expectation, such as considering yourself to be a professional sleeper and really focusing on quality sleep, such as eating good nutrition, getting morning sunlight, going for 10,000 steps a day to get your body moving, exercise.
Sunlight. Get outside.
Yeah, get outside. And that can
go have sex. Go do something rewarding that takes some effort, and then get to where that's what you want, as opposed to your body just saying, I want that reward with what is basically zero effort.
Yes.
Crack open a beer, do open a joint or whatever. It's it's a better world once you get there.
Yeah. It takes some time to get to the fulfillment of life, and that being more valuable to you than the pleasure that you get from the short-term burst of the drug or the alcohol. Because when we're drinking alcohol, we're getting pleasure and we have these high highs, but then we have very low lows. There's a crash. Whereas if we're consistently alcohol-free, we get to experience fulfillment, which isn't such a big spike in dopamine. It's more of a slow release over time. And having been 15 years alcohol-free now, I much more value the fulfillment of life than any short-term pleasure that I might get from consuming alcohol.
One time I went with a group of friends to this place called South Padre Island. It's this island off of the coast of Texas, and people go there for spring break, and is just filled at the time, just filled with just chaotic, wonderful kids that had 5 days to just cut loose, and no parents, and it's sort of a mix of college kids, but also high school kids that truly were like, I have no authority over me for a couple of days. And it's so intensely out of control. And I don't even think they do. It's like they've made it this illegal in a lot of places now. They don't have these just like intense mobs of spring breakers. And just remember thinking that it was just the greatest time in the world. And we were at some club, and we ended up getting into an argument with some other group, and getting kicked out of the place, and then wandering off, and kind of just it's, I think about 10 deep, sort of all of a sudden we're just like, well, where's the next place that we're going to for sure get in trouble? Let's look for more trouble. And at one point we sort of wandered onto some, like a bus, and they left this keys in a bus, and we turned on the bus, and there was something wrong with the transmission. All of a sudden we got the thing in gear, and right as soon as we got it in gear, these police come up and arrest us for theft. It wasn't like Grand Theft Auto. It ended up being theft from a motor vehicle, because there was some stuff that someone had taken off of the bus. And I still today cannot get a global passport like at the airport because of this thing that happened maybe 100 years ago. And every now and then, and there were so many more exciting things at one point where we ended up in some roof, and realized that if you really kicked off after this roof, you could jump all the way into the ocean. And it was just, if you really kicked off, you might not break your legs. And boy, that seemed like the greatest thing in the world. And I remember cheering for people who were scared to do it. Go. We were saying 1, 2, 3, jump. And I just thinking that man, my heart is like, I love this chanting. I love the danger of what's happening. I love encouraging other people to do stuff. And it was just a wonderful moment. And the repercussions are still with me. And it seems like there are a few of those opportunities where you have these kind of night that just never ends. But for most things involving alcohol, and I think for most people, if they're honest with themselves, it just slows you down. It's called a depressant for a reason.
Yes.
So I think I think what you're doing is wonderful. And I also really appreciate that you're coming at it, not from a 12-step program, which I love and I support and I believe in with my full soul. But the fact that you have a unique way of coming at this, I wish all the best for you. I hope you can be a real source of improving the lives of people. What's your book called?
Clear.
Yeah.
A neuroscience-based approach to help high achievers finally break free from alcohol. And there's another little subheadline, without AA, rehab, or willpower. And a lot of folks who find their way to our stop drinking process either have been to AA or don't want to go there. They've tried willpower and white knuckling it, or maybe it's not as bad. It's not so bad that they feel like they need to go to rehab. And I think there's that gray area in society where there are people who are drinking too much. They know they're drinking too much, but they don't feel it's bad enough to go to AA, for example, or they don't feel it's bad enough to go to rehab, and they've been trying willpower. So I try to support that group predominantly.
Sure.
Because there are millions and millions and millions of people out there who are drinking too much. They know they're drinking too much, but they don't think it's so bad that they want to go to a meeting.
Yeah.
And so if I can get out there and just spread the message about choosing an alcohol-free lifestyle as opposed to being, let's say, forced to admit or concede that they're an alcoholic, even if because they may not feel that they're an alcoholic, but they might still be drinking way too much.
Right.
That's the kind of community that I tend to reach, I think. And it's like gray area drinking.
Sure.
You know?
Which in many ways, to be in this gray area is a real curse, because you're not, an real addict or real alcoholic. they, get crushed by some part of life. And then if they can make these choices and live a spiritual life, and they can live better than they had ever dreamed ever. And so I think I saw, who Steve-O is? He was like,
Yeah. From Jackass.
From Jackass. Boy, he's awesome. I've seen on his podcast, he goes, the worst thing that I can imagine is living an entire life in this gray area where it's not helping me and it's kind of slowing me down, but not enough to make a change. And that really resonated with me. So
yeah,
you're addressing that group, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in many ways, that gray area drinking and not taking action over decades is more damaging than the person who actually does drink so much that they would admit that they're an alcoholic and they have a hard stop, because it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's death over years and decades. And then you wake up and you're 60 and you don't even know who your husband or wife is. You're not present with them. The kids don't want to call you because you've been so irritable and challenging, in part because of your drinking. You go to the doctor and your blood pressure is incredibly high. You've got acid reflux. You've got high cholesterol. You're carrying 30, 40 pounds of unwanted body weight. You don't feel confident. You're lamenting the decisions that you've made in the past. You don't have any positive outlook in the future. But on the outside, people go, oh, look, he's happy. Everything's going okay. She's happy.
Yeah.
Got kids, got it married, got this good career, live in a nice house. But on the inside, you're dying. On the inside, you're like, oh, man, I've been feeling crap for 30 years. That is worse, I think. Or that is worse. Let me say that again. That could be worse than the person who goes really, really hard, like someone like Steve-O, gets messed up.
Totally.
And then has a hard stop, because now that person gets 40, 50 years of being alcohol free and gets all the benefits of that lifestyle, as opposed to the person who is secretly and silently drinking too much. And it's like this little energy drip every year, every decade. And suddenly they're like, my life is so mediocre. And they've got to sit with that pain.
I think the worst thing for a person's confidence is to make a decision that they want to live better, and each day to go against that decision. So it's, someone, an overeater that says, oh, I got to stop doing this. And they keep letting themselves down. Then the next thing you know, they just have zero confidence in who they are. And that's what happens to anyone that has a rough relationship with alcohol. I'm never going to do this again. For sure, I'm never going to do this again. And they keep doing the same thing. And all of a sudden they just have to admit to themselves, like, I can't even trust myself to do anything that's important to me. And that's just got to be a real beater on someone's confidence and self-image and self-worth. Yeah. You're doing great work. So I thought you had mentioned another book too.
No, I have a book called Clear. That's coming out April 8th. And then we have a program which is called Project 90. And the organization is called Alcohol Free Lifestyle. And we support people who consider themselves high achievers to finally break free from alcohol. And, folks have been saving marriages, in some cases ending marriages.
Yeah.
Losing weight, feeling more energetic, sleeping better, generating incredible amounts of income and revenue, additional revenue and income in their business, because they've got that clarity and that strategy. I see a lot of people, pushing this go in business and make more money, etc. And this is how you do it. I would submit just stopping drinking alcohol will actually generate a huge ROI in your business.
It's the easiest way for a real jolt of ROI in anyone's life. It's the best. I can think of very few exceptions.
Yes, it seems that it's really paid off for you. Just before we
changed my life.
Yeah. Before we were recording here, you had referenced a fun activity that you did last night. Maybe you could share what you did last night, because I would suggest that you actually got dopamine release from playing a game with other adults while remaining alcohol free.
We talked about charades, and I had a night of charades with a group of friends, and the great thing, the thing that I think in my life is I am friends with people in my life that are heroes of mine. It's like well-known heroes, and it's all a result of who I wouldn't have access to any of it if I wouldn't have really embraced an alcohol-free life. And I think that I have opportunities of adventure and travel and opportunities of career and finance that would never have had it. I never would have had available to me if I wouldn't have had an alcohol-free lifestyle. This podcast, even though the subject is mainly, I love talking about recovery. It's like I would never have been able to get this podcast together or entice producer Jerry to work with me, without who I sort of became after leading an alcohol-free life. I mean, my life is, and my relationship with my wife quadrupled, and it's probably an understatement after I gave up drinking. And my relationship with my kids, thank goodness they were so young that they don't really even relate to any of who I was before drinking. All of a sudden, but anyway, that's spectacular. I don't find myself getting into DUIs or finding myself having to apologize profusely to people for things. And man, I wake up without anxiety. I wake up excited. Today I woke up and thought, man, I'm so excited about this different flavor of, I like this company called Strong Coffee. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to have this drink of coffee, and that's going to be really fun. And I have 3 interviews today, and I'm so pumped. And I'm like, these are conversations that I would be excited about, podcast or no podcast. I'm like, so that's cool. I'll see producer Jerry today, and I just get pumped. I wake up pumped, and I used to wake up with tremendous anxiety and tremendous fear, and I don't even relate to who that guy was anymore. So
I really want to acknowledge you, because you are accomplishing what most people will never even attempt, because you are a pioneer. Because 99% of the world's population will never attempt to go alcohol free, or to look at themselves, or to generate the space for them to have the clarity and the insight and the self-awareness to realize what was a destructive pattern. And it doesn't mean, I'm not just talking about drinking or taking drugs. I'm talking about how you related to your wife and your children, and the envy that you may have had to other people, and the sense of lack in your life. Like, that takes courage. It takes work. It takes self-reflection, and 99% of people are not willing to do that. So, when you and I met an hour or so ago, I could tell right away from your energy, from your aura, that you are open, and that you are a good guy, and that you have high morals and values. Like, I could just sense that. I didn't need to have you even say anything. I wasn't even listening intently to the words you were saying. It was the way that you were saying it,
right,
that made me understand that you are a self-developed man, that you are self-aware. So yeah, I admire you for that, and I want to acknowledge you for that, and for any of your listeners who are also doing the work.
I just thought of something. This is a great thing that you can tell anyone that wants to lead an alcohol-free lifestyle. Sometimes there are people that they get into a rut because they, just end up kind of ending the night early by starting drinking relatively early in the night. And I say ending the night, they're not going to bed, but they all of a sudden are just kind of doled out. And sometimes people are like, oh man, I'm not getting sex from my girl, or like, I'm not, it's like, and it's been months or something. And then I think that for most relationships, even though we have talked about how sometimes people wake up and they realize they're in a terrible relationship, most relationships can so quickly jump up the next ladder physically and emotionally just by dropping alcohol. I mean, if I was any therapist, I'd just go, are you guys, each of you, okay, cut that out and come back next week, or come back in 3 weeks. Tell me how it goes.
Any couple who choose to stop drinking alcohol together are going to look better naked.
And, that's great. Yeah.
And they're going to, and their intimate life is going to be enhanced because of it.
Yeah.
Both people
look better naked. Boners work better.
And I always say to women, the greatest beauty thing that you can do is to stop drinking alcohol, because our body's largest organ is our skin. And when we drink alcohol, we're literally feeding it toxins.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that shows up in crow's feet and bags under the eyes. I see all these women spending thousands of dollars on these fancy moisturizers with celebrity endorsements and getting all these
Sure.
kind of face surgeries and stuff. I might just stop drinking alcohol and your face will just glow. People will start praising you and say, wow, you look great. What's been going on? You look amazing. So for any couples out there, if you really want to enhance your love life, go alcohol free, because you'll have more energy, stamina.
Sure.
You'll look better naked. You'll just feel so much better, and you won't be as irritable or stressed in the relationship, because alcohol creates stress and it creates anxiety. So when you're alcohol free as a couple, you're able to communicate in a much more effective way. And that creates more intimacy and a greater bond, which leads to smarter choices, which leads to good nutrition and being well slept and having a more positive mindset, which leads to, candidly, more sex.
Listen, I'm so excited that you came in. I'm excited for your book. It comes out April 8th. And if there's any other way that I could support you or just continue showing my excitement for the journey that you're on, I will be excited to do it.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate you reaching out to me and inviting me on the show. It's been great, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you, Tyler.
Awesome. Peace out. We're good.